You are listening to the Unsoberly Sober Show. I'm your host, Magnify Maggie. This podcast will turn your perception of going sober upside down. We're going to be working from the inside out to get you that dream life. So make sure you stick around for the end of the episode where I'm going to walk you through our weekly positive pursuit exercise to begin rewiring that beautiful mind, baby. Hello, my free and powerful friend. Welcome back to the Unsoberly Sober Show. This week, we are piggybacking on very amazing lesson plans from my favorite, Psycho-Cybernetics. Last week, we talked about how I thoroughly agree with Andrew Tate that depression isn't real. In fact, I think depression is a self-image. But as Maxwell Maltz, the author of Psycho-Cybernetics, says, you can change your self-image. You can improve your self-image, but you can never outwork your self-image. So if you have those depressive tendencies, if you tend to identify with the negative behaviors, these negative emotions that you have, we're going to talk this week about how to improve that, how to change that. It is not true that people don't change. The truth is that people don't want to be changed from somebody else. They want to change on their own. And this is like the ultimate guide. It literally says the original text of the classic guide to a new life. And I mean, mic drop. I was doing a little bit extra research because last time I was like, I think it was written in the 60s or 70s. And I was like, I need to check that. It was written in 1960, published. And since then, self-image psychology, psycho-cybernetics, has been used all across the board for personal development and success, from sports psychology to public speakers, all of these different professions, all of these different areas of life and goal achievement. They have the fundamentals built from self-image psychology by Maxwell Maltz. What I find interesting, though, is that you can find psycho-cybernetics in all of these different areas of success. Professional athletes, Olympic coaches use this through visualization, mental rehearsal, self-acceptance, things of that nature. There's all of these different ways that psycho-cybernetics and self-image psychology is utilized, but there's one area that I have never found it to be recognized, and that is in the area of addiction, where I think it is needed the very most. I believe that people look at this kind of content and say, well, addiction is a disease. That's not going to help. Addiction is something that happens to certain types of people. When alcohol hits their brain, it has a different reaction, the brain chemistry, blah, blah, blah. We have all of these different genetic or biological ways to explain ourselves out of applying this information to alcohol use disorder, addictive behavior. But I think that's the main area that should be applied to. I actually remember once, this was before Psycho-Cybernetics, there was a book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, that came out, I believe it was in the 1930s. And from Think and Grow Rich, which was the educational content around the laws of achievement and science of success, I was like, why aren't they applying these ideals to addiction? And I kept listening to Napoleon Hill, lectures, seminars, speaking engagements, things of that nature. And I found one lecture where he says, I've tried to apply this education to friends struggling with addiction, alcoholism, but I just gave up hope because they were so unreliable and that they were so unstable. Their instability was too severe to help them. I don't discount Napoleon Hill's opinion or his reasoning behind that. That was his own kind of story, his own kind of focus. But I think it took somebody who actually really cared, somebody who can actually see beyond the alcohol use disorder, the addictive behavior, to say, this person who's struggling with alcohol is just as likely to get success from this book, or the laws of achievement, science of success, Think and Grow Rich. They are just as likely to benefit and improve their life from these educational resources. It's just that nobody cared enough to give them a chance and to be compassionate enough and empathetic enough to give them extra time. I think it just takes extra time for people that are in a place where they're using alcohol to cope because they're so insecure. They're so traumatized. They're so hurt. They have these very painful views of the world. They're going to take a longer time for this education to really absorb and marinate and for change to take place. But that does not mean that this is not worth trying. So to Napoleon Hill, I'm doing the damn thing. And to Maxwell Maltz, thank you for bringing this book into the world, for changing the way that our society reaches goals, but also thank you to everybody who said this education wouldn't help people who are struggling with alcohol, because I see every single Magnify member when we're studying Psycho-Cybernetics in our weekly trainings and in the course modules, when we get to it, when we're beyond it, and I ask them what was the most profound lesson, they would say Psycho-Cybernetics. With my one-on-one coaching, their favorite lesson plan, their favorite week out of the 12 weeks together is when we're focusing on Psycho-Cybernetics. This shit is wild. In fact, Rob, after our last episode, Rob ordered the book.
I bought it.
You bought it. And I told him in text message, I was like, you are going to have so much fun. Get ready for all of the aha moments. You're literally going to feel like you're high because your brain feels so good from the information.
It's just brain fuel, you know, like it's nice to get different perspectives and tools. So it's a good book. I haven't finished it yet, so don't quiz me.
Well, it's only been like 2 weeks since we recorded the last one, so no worries. I will not quiz you, but I'll invite you to pop in. We're going to go through chapter 8 today. Last week, we're actually working kind of in reverse. Last week, we discussed the failure type personality aspects. This week, we're going to go to chapter 8 and talk about the success type. And really piggybacking off of last week's episode, talk about how to take those failure aspects. Remember, FAILURE, it's the acronym. How to take those aspects and morph them into your superpower and your success type personality. So this week, if you have not already listened to the episode prior, you're still going to get a lot out of this week's episode. But I definitely encourage you to go back and listen to just spot any blind areas that you have towards negative self-image aspects that you are carrying along in your life, because everything that we believe about ourselves to be true impacts our decision-making, our perceptions of how people treat us, impacts the energy we take into rooms. Thus, our energy causes a ripple effect for other people to treat us certain ways. So in a nutshell, I would say that Psycho-Cybernetics takes positive thinking to positive thought, feeling, behavior loop, where then you're creating a new reality. You perceive people to treat you different. You perceive opportunities to come to your way different. You perceive your own ability to achieve things differently. And when you do that, you break that self-image of depressiveness, chronic anxiety, and you start to really step into your dream life, which I know it can sound a little cheesy, but I've seen it, I've lived it, it's for real. So let's go ahead and get into chapter 8. My bookmark this week. It's by Henry James. It's time to start living the life you've imagined. Dun, 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 dun. And it's just really fitting that this is the bookmark, one of my bookmarks for this book, because of Maxwell Maltz's emphasis on imagination and visualization and mental rehearsal, and how that communicates to the mind what to do when it needs to spontaneously respond to present circumstance. We're going to get to that a little bit later. But anyway, remember, throughout this chapter, think about how you imagine yourself to be and how you wish your life could be. Instead of just wishing on a whim, imagine it to be true. Take those wishes and transition them into true, vivid imagery where your mind starts to feed on that because it can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. And it just starts to act on those things that you visually paint in your mind. And that's a big part of the success type personality. So chapter 8, ingredients of the success type personality and how to acquire them. Again, I'm just going through kind of rapid fire. I'm going to read some of my highlighted text here because I want to hit the high points, but I also want you guys to have this book, get it on Audible, get it in copy. That was actually the exercise, the homework for last week. So hopefully you're already plugging along. Maybe you're already at chapter 8. So anyway, let's go ahead and dive in. So Maxwell Maltz says, just as a doctor learns to diagnose disease from certain symptoms, failure and success can also be diagnosed. The reason that a man does not simply find success or come to failure is that he carries their seeds around in his personality and his character. So I think that most people live their life and they think they were designated a successful fate or a failure type fate at birth. Their circumstances in their life, their qualities, their talents, their gifts, or their lack thereof. I think most people believe in some sort of destined fate, and that if especially the beginning of your life was hard, it's very easy to come to the decision that your entire life is going to be hard, that you were just one of those people that didn't get lucky. You were just one of those people. And as we're going into this text, I also want to remind you, first off, that's not true. We are all just as capable as one another. Somebody who's successful and somebody who's a failure, they have the same potential. It's just that they're looking in the wrong directions. But second of all, as I'm going through this, I want you to suspend the disbelief that this could apply to you. I know so many times when I was in my self-sabotaging behavior, I would hear concepts of positive thinking, positivity in general, people being very successful. I would say, yeah, they can, but I can't, right? Not me. I could never. That applies to every single other person on this earth, but not me. My life is the hardest life that there's ever been in existence, which is all false and actually pretty egotistic and narcissistic. So don't fall for that. Your life is what you make it. And as I'm going through this text, all of the sentences in your head that are popping up, not me, I couldn't do that. Say, hush, I can. Be quiet. I can do that. I just haven't learned yet. And that's what I'm here for. Okay, so let's go back to the text. Maxwell Maltz says, remember, the creative mechanism within you is a goal-striving mechanism. And the first requisite for using it is to have a clear-cut goal or target to shoot for. A great many people want to improve themselves and they long for a better personality who have no clear-cut idea of the direction in which improvement lies, nor what constitutes a good personality. A good personality is one which enables you to deal effectively and appropriately with environment and reality and to gain satisfaction from reaching goals which are important to you. I think that is so incredibly true, how we will sit around and we say, well, I want my life to be better. I want to be a better person. But we never get specific on like what qualities would we need to hone? What aspects of our life need to get better? And by better's relative. So like, what is that metric of improvement? If you say, I want my money situation to be better, Bob Proctor talks about this. I want more money. Well, you could be walking down the street and find a $5 bill. Hey, the universe granted you what you wanted, but you weren't specific. You could have asked for 100,000 and then gone to work on that. But when we start to wish and hope for a better future, a better self, a better relationship, a better job, well, we need to actually get specific and define what that is. What I find interesting is that when I talk to potential clients or even intaking new clients, we're onboarding weeks 1, 2, and 3, we're still getting very clear on what these individuals want because no shame against them. I spend a lot of time here. We spent so much time thinking about what we don't want and being very specific in our mind about that. I don't want to be lazy. I don't want to be a drunk. I don't want to be needing alcohol all the time. I don't want to be feeling sick. Okay, what is it that you do want? And then it's like this punch in the gut of like, well, first, I've never thought about that. Second of all, every time I think about what I do want, I struggle with worthiness. Can I get there? Do I deserve those good things? And that's part of the self-image that we need to work on. And so getting clear on what you want, asking the universe for it, being confident that what you do want can come to you, that is a huge step in the right direction in and of itself and can take an incredible amount of inner work. And sometimes that inner work isn't comfortable to do on your own. So again, I'm just reiterating throughout these episodes that I'm here for you. If you're a listener and you're like, I love these, but I need more advice, help, strategies on how to actually apply these things to my life, that's what I'm here for. That's why I do what I do. So the first page of chapter 8 really just encourages you to get specific and be like, hey, stop being so vague. If you could have anything from a genie, you rub a lamp and a genie pops out, and you could have anything. They say you have to be specific. That's how detailed you need to be, as if the universe is listening and will grant you every single thing that you want. As long as you're very detailed and specific, start to envision that. Start to ask for those things. So I'm going to go ahead and just introduce the acronym for success. In this chapter, I'm going to give you the same prescription that I would give you, that I would give you should you come to my office. I found that an easy to remember picture of the successful personality is contained in the letters of the word success itself. Success, S, sense of direction. U, understanding. C, courage. C, charity/compassion. E, esteem. S, self-acceptance. And S, self-confidence. I think that it is so fascinating how, I talked about this last week too, how my methodology to personally develop myself out of addictive drinking behavior came from setting goals that were authentic to me for the first time in my life. And it was in that time span in quarantine, going out in my garage and working on my glute goals, working on my nutrition goals, all these things that I was very interested in. I am a nerd about those things, but I had kind of hid those because my goal beforehand was to make sure everybody liked me and to live up to the expectations of others. So any kind of work goal that I had, any kind of relationship goal, it was all based on, if I do this, it will make other people like me, other people's expectations versus authentic goal. And sense of direction isn't just about having a blank goal, having a generic goal. It's about having a goal that is authentic to you, that you are interested in. It's okay to be weird. If you're interested in bowling, nerd out. If you're interested in being the best golfer, go golfing every day. If you're interested in goals around crocheting, let your crochet freak flag fly. Like whatever it is that interests you, that's a self-expression. That's an authentic way to be you and to let your spirit have fun in a way that it yearns to. So whatever the weird thing is that your heart calls to you, go after it. That's going to give you a sense of direction that's authentic to you, and it's going to feel fun. Big reason why alcohol feels so fun for so many of us is because we don't have any sense of direction. We're just trying to please others, so we need this thing to escape. So, okay, let's dive in. That wasn't even Maxwell Maltz's take on sense of direction. That was just my little forward to this section of the chapter. So I'm going to try to save some time here. I like this metaphor. I guess it's a simile. Maxwell Maltz said, a man is somewhat like a bicycle. A bicycle maintains its poise and equilibrium only so long as it is going forward towards something. You have a good bicycle. Your trouble is you are trying to maintain your balance on the bicycle sitting still with no place to go. It's no wonder you feel shaky. So in your life right now, what are you working towards that excites you? And working towards something isn't just, I'm going to go to the bank tomorrow and then I'm going to pay some bills. And then this Friday, I'm going to go to that, my son's football game. Like, those are just tasks. Those are great tasks. Those are things that are going to make you feel productive and maybe feed into a bigger goal, feed into a productive, effective self-image. But that's not anything exciting. Like, that's not going to make you wake up feeling like a kid on Christmas. So you got to move towards something that is authentic and fun. When we have no personal goal, which we are interested in which means something to us, we are apt to go round in circles, feel lost, and find life itself aimless and purposeless. Flashback to all the times I've sat on the couch thinking, what's the point of life? Well, it's to get off the couch and figure out what you want to do and then make something in the future to look forward to. We are built to conquer environment, solve problems, achieve goals, and when we find no real satisfaction or happiness in life, it's because there's no obstacles to conquer or goals to achieve. People who say that life is not worthwhile are really saying that they themselves have no personal goals which are worthwhile. That kind of sucks to hear, right? Sometimes it's like, so it's my responsibility. I have to get creative. I have to get excited about something. I encourage you not to let stress or overwhelm get in your way when you're creating goals in your mind, because the thing about worthwhile goals is that you're going to feel good doing them. And if you're sitting on the couch right now saying, I'm depressed, I don't feel like it, I don't feel like doing anything, know that that version of you is not going to feel the same way when you're working on something that excites you. You're going to feel energized. Again, if you're working on something that excites you, you're looking at it in a desirable way. Desire is the triggering mechanism to energy. So you tired on the couch is not the same version of you working on the goal that excites you because you actually desire to do it. Now I question, what goals are you working on that you do not desire to be a part of? And why are you working on them? It's most likely because somebody else expects you to, and you want to live up to their expectations. But that's not authentic. That's working with the attachment in mind. Always have something ahead of you to look forward to work for and hope for. Look forward, not backward. Develop what one of the automobile manufacturers calls the forward look. Develop a nostalgia for the future. I love that term. Like, when you think about nostalgia, you think about those past memories that give you butterflies and like, ooh, good feelings, warm buzz. Oh, I love that. But very rarely do we have the wherewithal to build nostalgia for the future. Rob, were you going to say something?
No, I was just thinking about the previous thing you were talking about, the goals.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to make it a game.
Yeah, gamify it.
Yeah, that's how I was sort of like hitting small goals on a daily. If you're lazy, then maybe it's a challenge to, if I clean up the living room, here's the goal of the day or the hour, and you have to almost trick your mind, because you do it with alcohol. Like my goal is to do 20 shots today. You know? Yeah,
you do it without. You do the same things just in a different capacities. Yeah. Like, you have the ability. Just switch gears. What would you do like to make it a game? As far as like, did you have a reward, or was it just kind of like the sense of like, yes, I did it in an hour? Like, how did you gamify it?
By time.
Yeah. So
like a time goal.
It reminds me of being kids, and parents would be like, go run to the mailbox, I'll time you or something, you know? Yeah. And it's like, oh, all of a sudden, like, let's see how good I can do it. And it makes it fun. And now in our brain, we are playing, which I've talked about this before. There's a very unique brain wave state that we go into when we are playing. It's very healthy for our brain, for our body, makes us feel good, and can turn some of those small goals that are really important, like cleaning our house, taking our car to get our oil changed, like those mundane things that can build our productive, effective self-image. Gamify those and be like, fuck yeah, I did it. I had fun. And that puts yourself in that play state. So I think that's amazing. And I think the more you do that, the more you're going to be in a high vibe, which gives you the ability to develop a nostalgia for the future. This was an experience that I hadn't had that I could reflect back on now. When I stopped drinking like a 300-pound man and I was in my full sober mode in 2020, there was this complete shift of what's going to happen this weekend. Because what had happened every weekend before that was that I would make plans and then I would kind of have like this cloud of doubt and worry over my head of like, am I actually going to show up to those? Because who knows how much I'm going to drink on Friday night. And, I might end up having like an emotional outburst. And I was basically planning around my blackout to the point that I didn't know if I was actually going to show up to the friend brunch on Sunday or the thing. So that was all during my drinking ages, right? And then when 2020 came around and I was completely sober, all of a sudden I started to look forward on Monday or Tuesday to my weekend, and I had a nostalgia for it of like good feeling. I know I can trust myself. I know that I say I'm going to do something, and because I'm not planning around my blackout, I know I'm going to do it. So the plans that I made, I felt nostalgia for them. I felt this butterfly in my tummy. I felt this warm, fuzzy, comforting feeling of like, I'm going to be able to sit around the table with my girlfriends. I could finally feel the excitement for future, even minutia, like little things. I started to feel excited for them. And it was a transference of nostalgia for the past to nostalgia for the future. And we need that as human beings. We have to know that where we're going is worthwhile. In addition to your purely personal goals, have at least one impersonal goal or cause, which you can identify yourself with. Get interested in some project to help your fellow man, not out of a sense of duty, but because you want to. So that sounds like you have to force yourself to want to do that, but it really isn't. If you think deep in your heart about a cause that you care about, there are so many ways to get involved that give you a sense of direction, a sense of self-satisfaction, a sense of this is who I am. This is what I stand for. This is what most of my life is about. This is, the culture of my life and my personality. If you look at my life, you'll see that a big cause is obviously alcohol use disorder prevention, curing it, healing trauma, emotional regulation. But on a more focused scale, a cause that I'm very involved in is support for children of alcoholics and adult children of alcoholics. That is a group of people that I'm involved in via meetups, via online platforms. I want to be involved in CASA. So that's something I'm looking into, Big Brother, Big Sister, finding out ways to help kids who are currently in homes of addicted parents and helping them with some out-of-the-box thinking, self-image building. So that's a cause. Something else that I'm very passionate about is animals. When I have more time, when I can free up my calendar a little bit, I would love to go and volunteer at animal shelters, go and give to ASPCA, go and do rescue dog adoption events. Like these are all things that I'm interested in. It's not about forcing you to do something that you don't want. It's about letting yourself do something that you do want. That would give you a sense of pride and fulfillment and satisfaction of I'm making an impact. I am here for a reason. That gives you a lot of confidence, which isn't necessarily that letter, sense of direction. Confidence is coming up, but each of these feed into one another. So that was sense of direction. Again, I'm just reading little bits and pieces. So get the book. We're on chapter 8. Success, S, sense of direction, U, understanding. I think this is something that we as humans all have to work on consistently, which is communication and understanding that Just because we say something one way does not mean that everybody interprets it the same. In fact, everybody interprets information based on their own beliefs, perspectives, their own memories, their own past experiences, as well as their own self-image. So we're all in our own little realities, and thorough, proper communication and understanding is necessary for the success type personality. Understanding depends upon good communication. Communication is vital to any guidance system or computer. You cannot react appropriately if the information you act upon is faulty or misunderstood. Many doctors believe that confusion is the basic element in neuroses. To deal effectively with a problem, you must have some understanding of its true nature. Most of our failures in human relations are due to misunderstandings. This is what I think is really important for people to understand, to get out of their own head, to get out of their own perspectives, realizing that we react to what we perceive, not to what's happening. We react to our opinion of things, not what's actually happening. We react subjectively, not objectively. Listen to this. We expect other people to react and respond and come to the same conclusions as we do from a given set of facts or circumstances. We should remember that what we said in an earlier chapter, no one reacts to things as they are, but to his own mental images. Most of the time, the other person's reaction or position is not taken in order to make us suffer, nor to be hard-headed, nor malicious, but because he understands and interprets the situation differently from us. He is merely responding appropriately to what he seems to think the truth is about the situation. So I think that's really important. We've talked about when we are emotionally reactive, to ask the question, what are some other possibilities? What else could be going on? And I think this is a great application of that. If I'm talking to somebody and they're really negative and I interpret that they're trying to bring me down, they're being stubborn, they're being obnoxious, hard-headed, whatever the case, I could say they must have it out for me, but I'm not saying what could be going on in this person's reality. They could be having a hard day. It could have nothing to do with me. It probably, in fact, has 0% to do with me. And they are just living in their own reality and interpreting the information that I'm saying through the shade, the emotional lens of what they're going through. So communication, asking good questions, being interested, wanting to articulate correctly, wanting to get clarity if you don't understand. If you take away a negative feeling from a conversation, don't just end the conversation. Say, I'm just curious, is this what you intended to say? Is this what you intended to make me feel like? I'm sure it's just me perceiving this, but it kind of made me a little sad that you said it like that. Whatever's going on, be confident enough to communicate thoroughly, ask good questions, clarify. One of the sections, he breaks down this section, and one of them is be willing to see the truth. Oftentimes, we color incoming sensory data by our own fears, anxieties, or desires. But to deal effectively with environment, we must be willing to acknowledge the truth about it. Only when we understand what it is can we respond appropriately. We must be able to see the truth and to accept the truth, good or bad. This is interesting, little history lesson. Bertrand Russell said, one reason Hitler lost World War II was that he did not fully understand the situation. Bearers of bad news were punished. Soon, no one dared tell him the truth. Not knowing the truth, he could not act appropriately. I love history. It's very interesting how psychology plays such a big part in things like that we've learned about since grade school, really. To close out this section, the prescription for understanding: look for and seek out true information concerning yourself, your problems, other people, or the situation, whether it is good news or bad news. Adopt the motto, it doesn't matter who's right, but what's right. This is something that I think is interesting within thought acceptance or thought rejection, is that instead of thinking or responding in a way of, this must be the right answer, this must be the right thing to do, think, will this get me to my results? Does this thought or idea produce good results? And sometimes what we think is good for us, we are only conditioned to believe that, and it's not reaping good results. So we might think if we're depressed, it's healthy to say, I'm depressed, just accept that, just be who I am. But does that thought actually make me feel better? No. So what's right, not who's right? Admit your mistakes and errors, but don't cry over them. Correct them and go forward. In dealing with other people, try to see the situation from their point of view as well as your own. I know that is very cliche, but when you actually do it, it changes the game. You've probably talked about that a lot, but when you're met with the opportunity to see something from somebody else's point of view, you're too stubborn to say, let me try this on for size. So here's your challenge. Start to look at the world through other people's realities and have some compassion, which is also coming up here soon. The first C of success, courage. You must have the courage to act, for only by actions can goals, desires, and beliefs be translated into realities. This is for everybody out there who has tried manifestation. They've tried like, I'm going to think about getting a new car, and dang it, I didn't get a new car in my driveway automatically. People who like try to manifest, but they don't see how it actually links and creates this cause and effect situation. It's because there's no action part behind it. If you're thinking about getting a new car, the thought of the new car, the intent of that manifesting is to say, now from that frequency, what would I have to do to get that car? What kind of person would I have to be to afford that car? Here's the opportunities. Now that I'm on the frequency and I'm manifesting these results, I see all these opportunities to make that reality. But if you're trying to manifest and you don't have the courage to act, the courage to do, then you are going to think manifesting and thinking positively is a bunch of shit. A bunch of just lies. I know so many people like that say, well, I tried, but it never happened. I say, did you actually do anything or did you just think about it? Thinking is a large aspect, but acting is the only way to bring these things into your reality. Nothing in this world is ever absolutely certain or guaranteed. Often the difference between a successful man and a failure is not one's better abilities or better ideas, but the courage that one has to bet on his ideas, to take a calculated risk, and to act. I think this is a really great section. I know that I was never willing to bet on myself back in the day. I was so indecisive, so insecure, so fearful that anything that I wanted, I would have actually bet that I would have lost. I would have placed money on like, this will fail for me. So of course it always did. We often think of courage in terms of heroic deeds on the battlefield, in a shipwreck or similar crises, but everyday living requires a lot of courage too, if it is to be effective. So he says, I tell such people, study the situation thoroughly, go over in your imagination the various courses of action possible to you and the consequences which can and may follow from each course. Pick out the course which gives you the most promise and go ahead. Do it. Act on it. If we wait until we're absolutely certain or sure before we act, we will never do anything. It is so true. We think that, and indecision or uncertainty was the you within failure. So uncertainty being like, I'm not going to make a decision because that saves me from having to own up to the making the wrong decision, right? So many people stay in that mode so long that they then decide that the goal is not worth their time, the action to take is not worth it, and they talk themselves out of it. They're like, I'm going to start when I'm ready. And then the whole time they're talking themselves out of becoming ready. And then 5 years later, they're like, well, I never started on that. And usually they'll say, good thing I didn't start on that because this, this, and this. And then they justify why they never started as a good thing. Any decision you make can turn out to be the wrong one, but we must not let this deter us from going after the goal we want. You must daily have the courage to risk making mistakes, risk failure, and risk being humiliated. A step in the wrong direction is better than staying on the spot all of your life. Once you're moving forward, you can correct your course as you go. And then he's getting specific here with a cybernetic system. The entire function of it is that you have to be moving in order for it to measure the deviation from the goal, take negative feedback, and correct the course. He says your automatic guidance system cannot guide you when you're stalled, when you're standing still. Just like with sense of direction as a bicycle, if you're not actually going forward, you're going to be unstable. You're going to teeter left to right. You're going to go back and forth. And there's nothing to correct there. There's nothing to do. So your guidance system can't work. You're just going to be stagnant. You're going to be stalled out. So remember, courage is not the lack of fear. It's the presence of fear and still acting. And then that's the adrenaline that you get afterwards of like, I was scared shitless, but I did it. And 9 times out of 10, you get to the end of that and you're like, I don't know why I was so scared, which should bolster up your courage. Be like, next time I'm not going to be scared. Prescription to having courage. Be willing to make a few mistakes, to suffer a little pain to get what you want. Don't sell yourself short. Many people don't really know how brave they are. In fact, many potential heroes, both men and women, live out their lives in self-doubt. Potential heroes. You could be a hero, but you might be stuck in self-doubt. That's crazy, right? If only they knew they had these deep resources, it would give them the self-reliance to meet most problems, even a big crisis. Another helpful suggestion is to practice acting boldly with courage in regard to doing little things. Like cleaning your house. I don't know, little things like talking to the neighbor that just moved in, like whatever requires courage for you on a small scale. It might be laughable, but the more you do that, the more you actually work and flex the mental muscle of courage. Do not wait until you can be a big hero in some dire crisis. Daily living also requires courage. And by practicing courage in little things, we develop the power and talent to act courageously in more important matters. I would have never guessed that it took courage back in the day, but now I really see how it's like highlighted in my mind how much courage is required. I mean, courage is required to step out of your comfort zone. You got to be courageous. You got to be courageous to do different. Your mind will talk you out of it. All right, next C is charity/compassion. Successful personalities have some interest in and regard for other people. Remember, we as humans are interdependent. We rely upon each other. We should not be isolated. In order for one person to reach their goal, they almost always, I would say 100% of the time, for a person to reach a big goal, they need to be introduced, have a door opened, have the help of another human being. We do not get anywhere on our own. And so if you've noticed that in your depressive state, in your addictive behavior, alcohol use disorder, that you've been cutting off your ties, isolating, this is your invitation, your challenge to reconnect with people, to care about them, to stop looking so heavily on yourself and to start looking at other people and how they live and what they're doing, what makes them happy, and how can you plug into that. So let me go into this second paragraph. It is a psychological fact that our feelings about ourselves tend to correspond to our feelings about other people. When a person begins to feel more charitable about others, he invariably begins to feel more charitable towards himself. The person who feels that people are not very important cannot have very much deep down respect and self-regard, for he himself is people. And with what judgment he considers others, he himself is unwittingly judged in his own mind. You know how they say like how we perceive others is a projection of how we perceive ourselves? That is so true. And that's what he's highlighting here. Charity does sound like, hey, get out there and donate. But it's about caring about other people and recognizing if I think this person, if I have a judgment towards this person, that is an extension of my judgment of myself. If I look at this person and I am thinking good of them, that is an extension of my ability to think good about myself. How we do one thing is how we do everything. I'm going to jump right to the prescription here. The prescription for charity is threefold. Number one, try to develop a genuine appreciation for other people by realizing the truth about them. It's going to get a little religious, but I want you to like swap with universe or source energy, whatever you want. The truth about other people. They are children of God, of the universe. They are children of God, unique personalities, and they are creative beings. When you start to see them as that, you start to see yourself as that. Number two, take the trouble to stop and think of the other person's feelings, his viewpoints, his desires and needs. Think more of what the other fellow wants and how he must feel. A friend of mine kids his wife by telling her, whenever she asks him, "Do you love me?" "Yes," whenever I stop and think about it. There is a lot of truth in this. We cannot feel anything about other people unless we stop and think about them. Number three, act as if other people are important and treat them accordingly. In your treatment of other people, have regard for their feeling. We tend to feel about objects in accordance with the way we treat them. So that is an echo even of Earl Nightingale. Says one of the most successful habits in the world is to treat every single person like they are the most important person because they are in their own world. And when you start to treat everybody else as the most important person in the world, you do everything the same. You start to treat yourself as the most important person in the world. Okay, number 5 is esteem. So success, we just covered the C's. We're now getting into E, esteem. I think that this was probably, other than sense of direction, esteem was where I really needed to get the wheels turning. I had such low, unhealthy self-esteem. And so I hope this one really helps anybody. Of all of the traps and pitfalls in life, self-disesteem is the deadliest and the hardest to overcome, for it is a pit designed and dug by our own hands. Summed up in the phrase, "It's no use, I can't do it." Remember, F for failure type personality was frustration and futility. What's the point? It's no use, I can't do it. So frustration is often the symptom of self-disesteem. Self-esteem, esteem should be healthy. It's not egotistic. It's not narcissistic to have a healthy self-esteem. That's actually vital for you. So the prescription for esteem is to stop carrying around a mental picture of yourself as a defeated, worthless person. Stop dramatizing yourself as an object of pity and injustice. Just like we said at the beginning of this episode, listen to this without the assumption of, it could work for everybody else, but not me. That's a symptom of self-disesteem. You're carrying around this chip on your shoulder. I've been through all of these injustices. Pity me. Those rules apply to every other human, but not me. Get over yourself. It applies to you. Stop wallowing about the past and focus forward. The word esteem literally means to appreciate the worth of. Isn't it funny that we all say, like, I have a lack of worth. I struggle. One of my limiting beliefs is like, I don't feel like I'm worthy of things. Okay, the way to heal that is to build your esteem. Esteem literally means to appreciate the worth of. Why do men stand in awe of the stars and the moon and the immensity of the sea and the beauty of a flower or sunset, and at the same time downgrade themselves? Did not the same creator make man? Is not man himself the most marvelous creation of all? All of us, we are all built with the same potential. You did not get slighted. You did not get handed a deck of cards that was short. You did not get the short end of the stick. You might have got different experiences from people, but the meaning that you're taking from that is pity me. I've been victimized. My life is hard. I'm the one that's built to be a failure. And you've just got to let that go. You are built in the same image as the successful person, the driven, healthy person. The appreciation of your own worth is not egotism unless you assume that you made yourself and you should take some of the credit. If you are like, I'm amazing because I created myself and I did this and I did that. Yeah, there's a sense of pride that you can have if you dug yourself out from rock bottom, but you're not saying that you are God. So do not downgrade the product merely because you haven't used it correctly. Don't childishly blame the product for your own errors, like the schoolboy who said, this typewriter can't spell. I think that's funny. Okay, so practice treating other people as if they had some value, and surprisingly enough, your own self-esteem will go up. For real self-esteem is not derived from the great things you've done, the things you own, the mark you've made, but an appreciation of yourself for what you are, a child of God, universe, source energy, whatever you believe in. I think that this gives, I know for me, it gave me permission to have a sense of pride. It gave me permission to have a healthy self-esteem because I thought it was kind of cool to be down on yourself. And I think even with social media, it's like kind of cool to like bully yourself, kind of cool to be like a little self-deprecating, but that's not actually cool for your mental health. You need to have healthy self-esteem. Okay, so that was E. Now we're getting into the first of the last S's, success, the last two S's, self-confidence. Confidence is built upon an experience of success. You have to experience something to be confident in it. When you started your job, day 1 through, I'd say day 30, were you confident in everything? No, you were probably shaken. You were probably voice trembly. Your hands were probably sweating. You're wondering if you're going to mess up. By year 1, year 5, year 10, you are so damn confident, right? Because you've experienced over and over and over again how to do something, and you've put the reps in, and you can now look back and even tell other people, I remember when I was nervous and I had to learn that. Now you're super confident in it, right? Because you've done that. So you need to figure out what you've done where you've experienced success and use that feeling as proof that you can transition that into any area of your life. There's a habit of remembering past successes and forgetting failures. This is the way both an electronic computer and the human brain are supposed to operate. But what do most of us do? We destroy our self-confidence by remembering past failures and forgetting all about past successes. We not only remember the failures, we impress them on our minds with emotion. We condemn ourselves. I know this to be so true. It actually just happened yesterday on our Magnify community call. A member was celebrating her accomplishments and the fact that she traveled and she had all of these wins along the way, and she's working on her body composition and her ability to not lean into coping mechanisms for fun or soothing. And we're celebrating all of these. And I asked her, what types of personal narratives, what types of stories were you telling yourself along the way to make good decisions? And what types of good decisions did you make in the moment? And maybe it was just also putting her on the spot in the group, but she said, I'm going to have to think about that. But she could tell me very clearly in the past all of the things that she had done wrong, almost as if she was reliving it in the moment every time, specifically what the cookie looked like or what the wine looked like, whatever it was. But when she did right, it was like almost like her mind had amnesia around it. And I think this is true for so many of us. We will really get emotionally involved with what went wrong and we'll never let ourselves forget that. But what went right, we can't recount. We kind of just think, well, I got lucky. You didn't get lucky. You did something right. You had the right attitude. You had the right mindset. You had the right strategy, whatever that was. Audit when things go right. Audit what went right, what you did that you can copy and paste and inject into any future experience. And then let go of the other bullshit. You know, we're the only species on Earth that punishes ourselves more than once for anything. We punish ourselves over and over and over again for mistakes, when literally the mistakes are meant to just be like, okay, cool, not going to do that again, forgetting it. It doesn't matter how many times you have failed in the past. What matters is the one successful attempt, which should be remembered, reinforced, and dwelt upon. You can dwell in good places. Dwell upon that. Charles Kettering has said that any young man who wants to be a scientist must be willing to fail 99 times before he succeeds once and suffer no ego damage because of it. So the prescription for self-confidence: use errors and mistakes as a way to learning, then dismiss them from your mind. Do not project them on the screen of your mind. Do not revisit those. Do not revisit the emotions. Deliberately remember and picture to yourself past successes. Everyone has succeeded sometime at something. Especially when beginning a new task, call upon the feelings you experienced in some past success, however small it might have been. There's a little excerpt in the book. I can't recall which chapter it was, but basically Maxwell Maltz says, remember the first time that you learned to tie your shoe. How good did that feel? If you can really think back to that. That's one thing as a human being you've learned how to do. And if nothing else, recall the first time you learned how to tie your shoe as a successful movement and a feeling of confidence that you can inject into any other circumstance. All right. The last S, self-acceptance. And this is one that I gotta say, I'm like towing a little line with it, because you can look at self-acceptance and be like, oh, well, I'm just going to accept that I'm depressed. I'm just going to accept that I'm an alcoholic and I'm powerless over it. Hi, I'm Maggie. I'm an alcoholic. I'm going to accept that. But that's not really what he's saying. So I want you to listen carefully and understand that self-acceptance is not about being comfortable with things that are holding you back, limiting beliefs that are keeping you stuck, but rather owning who you are, so that you are able to be confident and courageous and have a sense of direction. Own your faults and then learn how to use them for good. No real success or genuine happiness is possible until a person gains some degree of self-acceptance. The most miserable and tortured people in the world are those who are continually straining and striving to convince themselves and others that they are something other than what they basically are. So shams and pretenses. You try to make yourself out to be somebody else because you don't accept yourself for who you are. Success, which comes from, I want to slow this down. This deserves a slower pace. Success, which comes from self-expression, often eludes those who strive and strain to be somebody, and often comes almost of its own accord when a person becomes willing to relax and be himself. So success comes from self-expression, authenticity, being yourself. Think about social media when you can tell somebody's like putting on a front and they're a facade and they're not really speaking from their heart. You can sniff that out in them. You can feel through their energy. Whereas if somebody's just like freaking real, they're just like, I know I'm saying some shit that y'all might not agree with, but here I am. People love that. We gravitate towards that because that is a successful type person. And we gravitate towards those high vibes because they are expressing themselves. They are being themselves, not trying to be somebody that they're not. Changing your self-image does not mean changing yourself or improving yourself necessarily, but changing your own mental picture, your own estimation, conception, and realization of that self. So it's almost like you're not changing yourself, but changing your perspective of yourself. If you want to be more confident, you're not actually changing anything about your confidence except for unleashing it. You're not growing more confident, you're unleashing it. You're letting it be there because it's already there inside of you. Most of us are better, wiser, stronger, more competent now than we realize. Creating a better self-image does not create new abilities, talents, powers. It releases and utilizes them. Remember, with self-acceptance, you are not your mistake. Self-acceptance is easier if we realize that these negatives belong to us, but they are not us. So if we've made a mistake, we've had weaknesses, shortcomings, errors, we can own those as a belonging, but we're not going to identify as them as ourselves. They are not us. Many people shy away from the healthy self-acceptance because they insist upon identifying themselves with their mistakes. You have made a mistake, but this does not mean that you are a mistake. I feel like we need to get that on a shirt. So again, I am just skipping around. Make sure you get the book. We're in chapter 8, the prescription for self-acceptance. Accept yourself as you are and start from there. Learn to emotionally tolerate imperfection in yourself. It is necessary to intellectually recognize our shortcomings, but disastrous to hate ourselves because of them. I think there's something that we talk a lot about in the Magnify trainings is like, it's on the line of self-acceptance where we realize that there's things that we say we aren't good at, but we really haven't tried. There's things that we say that aren't fun, but we haven't really entered into these things with a fun attitude. We haven't given them a try. And in my mind, I'm like, well, they're not fun because you haven't had a good attitude. You aren't good at that thing because you haven't tried, you haven't learned. But all in all, there's a really healthy pattern of self-acceptance when you do try something and you can accept, I don't like that. I don't like that. Like, I'm not sure if this is making sense from my mind into words, but here's an example. So I might say, this is true story. I don't love cooking. I don't love like meal prepping. I don't love being in the kitchen. I love nutrition, but I would much rather just like piece together the things that I need with like yogurt and raw veggies and fruit than like get out a pan and turn the oven on and get the grill shit out. Like, I don't really love that stuff. The more you work on yourself, the more you see that that attitude is what keeps me from getting success cooking, right? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? If me not wanting to cook meant that I would rely on fast food and I was not hitting my nutrition every day and that it was actually bringing about negative circumstances, then that's something that I want to change. So this is kind of where I'm bringing self-acceptance into it. If the quality, the thing that I need to accept or I'm trying to accept or have accepted is bringing about negative results in my life, do not accept that. Say, I can change. But if the thing about you that you believe about yourself and your self-image doesn't really affect your results and you have a way to work around that, then accept it. I accept that I don't love cooking. It's not on my agenda of my favorite things to do, which sounds kind of weird coming from a nutritionist and a fitness coach. I don't love meal prepping. I would rather order it from our healthy Hugo Meals, shout out Hugo Meals, Las Vegas, for 5 to 7 of my meals a week, and then put together 5 to 7 other meals. And then I have my breakfast is the same thing every day. So like, I don't have to cook and I can still get good results. I can accept that about myself and not berate myself saying, oh, you're not getting good results in the kitchen because you don't try. It's like, well, actually I do try. I have tried. It's kind of fun, but that's not really where I get the most creativity flow, right? So I can accept that about myself. So what in your life, this is kind of an audit. What have you accepted that is bringing about negative results? That's what you actually want to reject. If it's bringing about negative results, I'm just depressed. Maggie said I should accept that. No, that's bringing about negative results. If you can accept that you like to drink, but it doesn't really serve a purpose right now, then that means that it doesn't serve a purpose is what's going to bring about new results. So there's all different types of way that self-acceptance has to kind of be framed and conceptualized. And I think that one is probably the one that takes the most work. And even to go back to Rob's episode, our episode together of like self-awareness, I think that's really what self-acceptance is like becoming aware of the things that you do and then saying, does this bring about happiness or does this bring about strife and struggle? And should I get out of my own way? Should I use this as a superpower? So, all right. That is all for this week of Chapter 8, Psycho-Cybernetics. Remember, we study this together one-on-one. If you are a client, a Magnify VIP client, I only take 2 per month because I want to make sure I have all kinds of alone time with you, time to support, time to help you learn, time to apply these to your life, what's going on for you strategically, daily, with our weekly check-in videos, check-in calls. We also go through this a lot, touch on this a lot through the Magnify course and community, which we meet every Monday, usually every week, depending on if I'm traveling. Every Monday is the Magnify training. The course modules also include an entire module on Psycho-Cybernetics, applying this to your life. So check out the links in the description if you want more help guiding this in your life, not just listening to the free content. You're ready to take action. Those action steps are below in the episode description. Please let me know for your homework this week, your exercise of the week. Pulling from Psycho-Cybernetics, again, I want you to mentally rehearse every day. I want you to sit down, see yourself with that sense of direction, with that understanding, with that compassion and confidence and esteem and self-confidence and self-acceptance. I want you to sit and think and visualize and see on the screen of your mind what that looks like in your life. Get very specific. Let it make you feel good. Spend 2 to 5 minutes doing this every morning, and you will see just what he's talking about in every chapter of this book with believing and seeing and guiding your creative mechanism towards your goals. Let me know how it goes. Comment, email me, send me a DM on Instagram. I love hearing from you guys. And I hope to see you on the other side of a one-on-one consultation. If you are interested, if you are ready, I know you are, you've been listening for a while. And maybe even on the other side of the course, the community in Discord, and all of those links are provided below. So I cannot wait to hear how everything's going. Looking forward to meeting you. And remember, between now and our next episode, it all goes down in the mind. You are free and powerful. Think different in order to drink different. Think different to move different, feel different, live different, see different, all of the above. Lots of love. Magnify Maggie. It means the entire world to me that you have been here with me, letting me share my experiences and hopefully helping open your eyes to a bright, beautiful life ahead of you as well. So if you are loving this show, please, please, please subscribe, like, comment, and especially share this with somebody that might be in need. Please help get the word out. Word of mouth is so important. And I know that you're somebody special who can help me in this mission for thinking differently in order to drink differently or never again. Make sure you reach out if you have any questions you want discussed on the podcast. I'm here for it. So I'll talk to you soon. Signing out, Magnify Maggie.